Hoi, hello and welcome to the Meet Maastricht podcast. I'm Katrina and together with our resident local Lucy, we will be exploring some of the amazing stories that make Maastricht so special. So sit back, relax and join us as we learn about our favourite Dutch city. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 20 of the Meet Maastricht podcast. This is part 2 of our little series about the Maastricht dialect with special guest Joos Minnes, myself and Lucy as always. Before listening to this episode, I highly recommend you listen to part 1 so that you are all caught up on our discussion. We are leaping in to this episode right where we left off, talking about literature in dialect in Maastricht.
It's because in Maastricht the elites who, before they used Maastricht, they used French to be other from the other Dutch. And as soon as they couldn't use this French anymore, they had to find another way to express their otherness. And they found this in the dialect. Okay. So that's also why you can find a lot of 19th century poetry in dialect.
Well, I know when we've talked about the Mommas and how they use
the Mommas had a pivotal role in this. Yes.
Yeah, and using dialect.
Yeah, we discussed that extensively because yes, they were very important in that, and Alterdisse was a member of Mommas as well. Yeah. And it's, are you going to read to us?
Yes, I'm going to.
We're going to get a Maastricht poem.
Yes, a Maastricht poem by somebody from Mommas. Okay. Somebody was called Schumacher, and he has this funny story. It's a typical Maastricht humor of not taking yourself too seriously, which is mostly to emphasize that you should take yourself seriously. But then again, it's very complicated. This Maastricht humor.
Too deep.
Yeah. Sorry. And then he and I think Lucy will laugh very much at this. He has this reading of why people should not use French, and he says. Doordat de beterklas zoveel Frans sprak en schreef, waren Mestreechs wat die lui spraken alles behalve van vreemde smetten vrij. So because everybody spoke French, then the dialect became contaminated with French words. Het wiemelde letterlijk van de Franse woorden en uitdrukkingen. Het klonk niet deftig genoeg te spreken van maaier, mooier, broer, zuster, neef. En daarom zag men moon, peer, ma, meer, moon, frère, ma soeur, cousin. So
I understood the French part.
It's the French word, but they are all written down in this great Maastricht accent of this. So in French it's mère, and then the Maastricht people who want to speak French just like the elites, they make it mère, and that's something he says. Oh, you should not do that. Yeah. Of course, with a wink. And then he says that. One professor of the college, so that's the French school, of course, in Maastricht, he has said: "Je moet niet zoveel Franse expressies in uw pourparlers me leren, anders retombeert je in de barbaries van de Moyen Âge." So he speaks Maastricht, but every other word is in French, and he says. You should not use so many French expressions because it makes me think of the Middle Ages. But this is...
it's a cracker in dialect.
Yeah, it really is.
But this is very indicative of a Maastricht brand of humor. This poking fun at yourself.
Yeah.
And then using language to do it.
Yeah. It's really interesting from someone, like I said before, that I come from a place that doesn't even, our indigenous languages, there are hundreds, but for the English speakers in Australia, there's not really even that many accents. There's a strength level, but it's hard for me, it's not part of my culture and my brain to play with language in that way and think about the way that I talk, really. Because we just sort of all speak very similar. It's on a scale of you live in the bush to you live in a fancy apartment at the top of a high-rise in Sydney.
Definitely an Australian accent. Yes. But it differs very much in. Could you do the closed mouth?
To me, it sounds like
Outback Aussie.
Oh, the Outback.
Yeah. What does that sound? Can you do that? The Outback Aussie, because it's entertaining. They can't open their mouths because all the flies will fly in.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
I think they open their mouth even more. I don't think they speak with their mouths closed.
They do.
Do they?
They do.
I need to go out.
I was there. I saw them do it. They can.
Yeah. No, so it's really interesting to me to.
What's very funny is that there is a Dutch accent in English.
Yeah.
If you listen to Mark Rutte, he has it.
Very.
Yes. Which I don't think it's bad, because I like when you can hear where somebody is from. But what's typical in this Dutch accent is that the muscles in your mouth are very loose, so you don't ever use them. Yeah. Which is why they have the G instead of the G, because the G you have to really how do you say it? Aanspannen, stress. Well, you have to use these muscles, and in Hollandish Dutch there has been more newcomers, and when newcomers come, they need to learn your language, but it's hard for them. So you break down your language a little bit. So you take away the hard things. And this also happened with the Maastricht dialect, because the Maastricht dialect is different from the other dialects. We call them boeren, for instance, from Friesland.
Meaning farmers. It's not kind.
No, it's not kind at all. But then, of course, the boeren called the Maastrichtenaren pieren, which means worm. So that's...
Very good.
But they have, for instance, still this de sound, so that's a diphthong. And the dialect of Cannes, of Châteauneuf-Cannes, has double the number of syllables, or the number of klinkers, vowels, the Maastricht dialect has.
But it's so close.
Exactly.
It's so close. Yeah. So in the Hollandish dialect, there have been lots of newcomers, for instance, from England, from Norway, or from France, or wherever, and that way you have to make your language easier, and you make your language easier by using less muscles. But in the Maastricht dialect, we use a lot of muscles, so that's when we speak English. You can hear that we use all these muscles.
Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting.
That is really interesting.
It's language is such a people don't think of it as a physical thing, but it's such a physical thing, because I know a little while ago I did a couple of Arabic lessons, and there are just sounds that my mouth, my tongue, does not know how to make, and they sound exactly. There'll be two different sounds that they're telling me are different, and I'm like, they sound exactly the same to me, but they know from birth, or from when they're learning to talk, that they're different. And the example that we were given, that some people from Arabic languages, and they when they come to English, is the p and the b is quite difficult. And to me, p and b sound very different. But when you feel it in your mouth as a physical thing, p and b are not that different at all.
Really? No. But this same occurrence has been shown to exist in the Limburg dialects as well. There was a big research project recently concluded where this was where they carefully researched all this and measured it and everything. And so the people from Limburg can distinguish between sounds that people from Holland cannot distinguish between. And I think that it helps acquiring other languages. Of course, when we're born with the capacity to learn any language on earth, all of them. And that sort of calcifies somewhere, around your 5th year, I think. And after that, yes, your muscles and your brain are on a sort of, one track. This is the language you know. And the more languages you can add to that, the less calcified, of course, this this track is. So it makes perfect sense. So I'm glad they are now proving this stuff.
I think if like as you said, the Maastricht dialect, if you're using a lot of the muscles, you might have more tools in your toolkit to learn other languages.
Yeah. Also the Limburgish dialect. So Limburgs is European language that is protected by European law in the Netherlands, but not in Belgium because of this language battle. So the dialects in Belgian Limburg are slowly vanishing, which is very sad, I think. Also the wonderful patois between Limburgish and Walloon that is still being spoken in Voeren and just south of Voeren is disappearing. But that's not what I was trying to say.
Going elsewhere.
We're going elsewhere, but in the Limburgish dialects there is a sense of tonality, like in Chinese. But Limburgish people are better than most Chinese people when it comes to listening to these things. For instance, in Maastricht it's very, very distinct. I think everybody can hear the difference between been and been. So, been and been. And I don't think you can hear the difference, but everybody from Maastricht directly knows one is plural and one is not. This is something that makes it creates an extra barrier for whoever wants to learn the language, because if you've never heard the language as a child, you don't know where to push and where to pull in the language. And
but isn't it tone also in the sense of height? That it's higher tones, lower tones. They can also, so it's the same word, but and Chinese does this too. Depending on the tone, the meaning changes. We have no difficulty with that whatsoever.
English. Something that I have thought about in English is the question, because that's one of the things that is within my frame of understanding, is when you're asking a question, a lot of the time, most of the time, your intonation will go up.
Limburgish does that standardly.
Yeah, but that's sort of the only thing I can think of in English. I'm sure there are plenty of examples, but yeah, we don't have the finer things. Yeah.
So you are using a sentence, and then in your sentence you are using rhythm and tone, but not within the words.
No, we don't have the tone.
This is not like words is another word than words. It's the same word. It doesn't. The meaning does not change, and in Maastricht it does. So and then still, of course, there's rhythm in sentences and everything.
And that's not something that happens in Holland and okay.
It happens in I believe in Hungary, in a small part of.
There's a small.
But it's really it's very unique.
It is very rare anyway.
Yeah.
Very rare. And we are not troubled at all. But of course it is findings like these coming out, helping people to lose their sense of inferiority when it comes to their language and their culture.
Well, maybe we should talk a little about something that's in which the dialect is not inferior at all, but superior.
I hate where this face is going. Yeah, okay.
Which is in carnival music.
Oh yeah, good. Yes.
So there is a lot of music in dialect. There's operas, I mentioned them, but then of course there's the carnival in Maastricht, and I think if you're an expert and you've been here for at least a year, you know what the carnival is and what carnival does to people in Maastricht. And the dialect is a big part of this, which of course comes from the Mommes. So that's the old Tempeliers. Who began to use the Maastrichts, but then up until this day, when there's a new carnival song, it has to be in the dialect.
Hey, je knutje, zo dik als een hutje, zo dik als een boen. God, die loen. Zeven cent en een ripperrok, murkgesleten bot erop. Zeven cent en een ripperrok, murkgesleten bot erop.
Have to play Us Maastrichter Taal, tunes van allemaal. En vertrekken het lijk, want dat geeft juist de klank.
Endlessly, yes.
Yeah. So the first texts from in Maastricht are songs as well, because they are from the before 1807, of course. The only university that people from Maastricht could go to was the University of Leuven. And when they came back, there was this great party for these people, and it's always in the almanacs of that year, because this year we're going to get someone smart. And usually this was also a local boy, somebody people knew, and other people went to school with him and played with him, and then all of a sudden he's this intellectual from Leuven. And then they made these songs for these people, which are recorded, and they are always like, well, now you are from Leuven, but don't think you are better than other people from Maastricht. Do you still speak your mother tongue? And of course in the dialect, because that was most Maastricht that you could find. And why do we find it only in 1770? Because paper is getting cheaper, and almanacs are being printed, and then we still have these. Yeah. But of course, before that, there were also songs in dialect. So the carnival tradition of Maastricht and the songs in dialect are very, very. The tradition is very old.
Well, I think music and singing it's such an old tradition, and it's connected with language in quite a significant way as well as just being able to learn a song. And it's an easy way to learn a story, to learn a fable, to learn, even now we have nursery rhymes and things, the first kind of songs and language things that you learn. So I don't think it's surprising at all that dialect and songs are intertwined. So there's new carnival songs being written
every year.
Yeah, who writes carnival songs? Just people.
Everybody, whoever wants to. It's.
We could have a go. Yeah. Make a song about the expats.
In dialect.
You'll call it Expatter Pieter Pater.
Good.
Yeah.
What are the most famous songs that everyone will hear in Carnival that people can listen out for? Maybe I can try and put a snippet in.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah. The Zaterharmonie, the drunk band, which is of course not necessarily drunk.
There are these, we would now, people call them the old carnival songs. Yeah. So what time period are they from? This is the 50s, I think.
The Zaterharmonie is the late 50s.
Late 50s, yes. And then there's like Meer kom uit de zedeleer, and Zuster Kumper min tant netje. And that's all 50s, 60s, and these are now considered.
Those are the golden oldies.
Right.
Most people know them.
Yeah. Most people know them, and most people consider them the original carnival songs. But of course, there are much older carnival songs, but mostly they are about the time right then. So every year the Tempeliers choose a Maastricht carnival song, and mostly it is something that is currently in the news or something like that.
Well, that has long been the case.
Long been the case, but now
so, like in the 1970s, when they were building the parking garage under the Vrijthof. So there was this enormous pit in the middle of the city. The carnival song was, "We can dive off St. John's Church in this pool right here," you know. Yeah. So and that would happen a lot. Songs reflecting something current, which of course makes them very easy to date, because you know when this was going on.
Yeah.
But the past couple of years, I think the songs are just, they're inane. They really are. I mean, it's just yay, party. That's basically what it is.
Yeah, but that's with most party music right now, of course, because there's a lot of influence from outside of Maastricht on the Maastricht people. I don't know if you know the great artist Fabrizio. whom I like a lot. And
because this is interesting.
this is very interesting. He uses, he makes covers of Italian disco, like 80s disco, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's the music that for the people who are in the city is nostalgic. You know, oh, I've heard this song somewhere before, but I don't know where anymore. And this was in a period that on every corner of Maastricht there was this fancy-looking guy with his hair in wax and a Vespa. You could see them everywhere in Maastricht. So this was, and then he made a song of somebody stealing a Vespa, which sounds very.
No, but I mean, this is creative. These are not the songs that are entered into the yearly Templier competition to be chosen as the Carnival song. This is a sort of parallel track, but everybody knows them. Because they will usually have little dances with them. Fabrizio, who isn't really Italian, he's just act.
He's not.
Oh, Yus, I'm so sorry. I'm disturbing
But Fabio
your.
is right.
God, who knows? There's always play acting going on in this city, so yeah, I think the safest thing to assume is they are not. But anyway, he also made a song about heavy rain, and all the children will jump around pretending they are windscreen wipers. Routewasser, and everybody will be jumping around, making that move, and it's so that's a sort of parallel track to the yearly competition, which to many people has gotten pretty stale.
How do people learn those kind of things?
Osmosis.
The zeitgeist of Maastricht. Yeah. I guess because I was trying to think of something to relate to my own life, and I was thinking Christmas carols. It was like something I don't ever remember someone teaching me, but somehow I know all the words to Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Just like somehow it gotten straight into my brain. Yeah. So it sounds silly until you realise that there are so many songs that just somehow get in there.
So the first Carnival songs were songs of the garrison.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the Maastricht people pretended to be the garrison, which is why, it's fun. This city was a fortress for a very long time, and you had to get off the streets. There was always a curfew. You couldn't leave town. You have to, there's lots of pressure on you every day. And then during the carnival, you get to fool around, and you could. They could make fun of the garrison by singing their songs and often changing them a little bit to make them a little bit less menacing. And because of this, the Maastricht Carnival is still very militaristic. There's this. I don't know if you've ever been to the opening of the carnival.
No, I haven't been to the opening, but I know about the tiny cannon.
Yeah, this is tiny cannon, and it's just to make fun of this big cannons of the garrison.
Yeah.
We are the people of Maastricht. We have our own cannon. It's this cannon. We are very serious, but no, it's this making fun of yourself. Also because people were very poor.
Obviously they could only afford to make such a tiny cannon.
Yeah, but I mean, the joke is that it is so loud you can hear it all over the city. So yeah, no, there's a lot of parody going on. I mean, all of Carnival really centers on parody. We are taking over power now. Yeah. We will have the fool as the ruler of the city, which is very healthy for a couple of days a year. We think more people should do that.
Anyway, I know we've been talking for a while. Is there anything that we want to add, or that?
Well, obviously we could go on forever, but I think yes. But I think for now.
Unless you want me to sing a song.
I think I would find that quite entertaining. Yes, but we're going to use the CDs for now. I'm sure we'll find more opportunities to sing songs.
Yeah. And I think it's worth to learn a little dialect, so you can speak with the locals. And I always think if you could learn just Alsjeblieft,
dankjewel,
or merci.
Merci. Maar oui, bien sûr.
And if that's all too much, I've told this people I've studied in Leuven, so I many people who visited here. You can pull off a conversation, especially when somebody is drunk, with only 3 expressions, which is yeah, You can say it all the time. Yeah, yo.
That's an affirmation.
Yeah, maybe Lucy can translate these three.
No, it's all he's saying is he's making approving noises. So it's an affirmation to continue talking.
Yeah, yo.
Yeah.
Then the second one is handig, which is basically the same. In English we would say right.
Okay, yeah.
Handig.
Yeah.
And then the third one is omuk, which translates to old mosquito. And it's...
Don't ask.
Don't ask. I don't know.
But that is an expression which signifies approval but surprise. I mean, you're not objecting, but you are a little taken aback by what you're being told. So that's a very handy sort of the subtitles.
Well, and I think if people do want to learn a little bit of dialect, where should they go?
Veldeke.
Veldeke, or if you can read Dutch, there is a new book by Flor Aert. That's very good. It's called Leergang van Mestreechs.
Meaning course in Maastricht. It's Mestreechs.
It's fun to learn about this language, and I think it's important when you live here that you know there is a dialect, and when you know just a few words in dialects, just to approve of it for the locals. So when there's a local and when somebody who I clearly know that he does not speak my language, he's not from around here, and he speaks one word in dialect, I'm blown away, and So it's really an icebreaker, and do you say that icebreaker in English? Yeah. And it's something that I really recommend.
Yeah, it's greatly appreciated. We will cringe at the way you pronounce things.
But that does not matter.
It does not matter. Don't let that deter you.
We'll have to, I think it's hard to find, but as someone who survives, I am 50% Google Translate at this point. My life is owned by Google Translate. Google Translate won't do dialect, so it's quite hard as someone who, even if someone wants to learn, it's hard to find. So it's great to have some resources to be able to have.
Veldeke does on Facebook. They do irregularly. They do little posts where you can hear someone say a phrase in dialect, and on the screen you will see the word or the phrase written in dialect, and underneath the translation in Dutch and in English. I don't think Veldeke has got entire courses so far for English speakers.
But for anyone who wants to learn little pieces,
just little words, So find Veldeke on Facebook, and we, the indigenous, will keep pestering them about making some sort of a little introductory course, because of course there are courses in dialect, and lots of Dutch speakers who come to live here will take these courses.
But it's from Dutch to dialect.
To dialect, not from English.
So that's once I've got the Dutch down, then I get to move on.
But you can use the three, omuk, and handig.
This is good advice, but the thing is, of course, as with any language, there are just different shades of meaning to these three expressions, which probably don't matter when you're drunk, but they will in other settings. So this still requires a little research into what exactly are they good for. That's because.
Just a warning to our listeners: don't just throw them out. It punched in the face. I don't know what's happening.
As I said, we will absolutely appreciate the effort. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well. Thank you to you, our very special guest, and thank you to Lucy as always. I don't know, do we have something to introduce for next week?
Next week?
Yes.
We're doing a podcast on the Spanish government. It's a building on the Vrijthof, and it dates back a long time, and it has one of the very few remaining Renaissance pieces of building left in the city. Yeah. And we'll talk about that.
De zarte Hermenie, die trekt altijd maar bij je oog, al kennen ze niet wie. De zarte Hermenie, die speelt niet goed maar her en dus voor twee. En wie? De zarte Hermenie, die trekt uit Mestreechs is weer een nieuw orkest. Ze spelen wel heel hel, met valse resteres. Ze zien altijd bien en houden op de kist. Me huurt ze overal, of als het afgelopen is. Da 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 da, da 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 da. De zate harmonie, de zate harmonie. Die trekt altijd maar bij je oog, al kunnen ze niet meer. De zate harmonie, de zate harmonie. Die spel ik zo maar hel en dus verdriet.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and don't forget to follow us on social media. You can find us on Facebook by searching Meet Maastricht and on Instagram at meet_Maastricht. If you would like to learn more about us, you can also visit our website at meetmaastricht.eu, where you can buy tickets and subscribe to our monthly newsletter so you're always up to date. Thanks again, and tune in next time to learn more about our beautiful city.
Tot ziens.